What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? It is me, MrLastHill. Today we have Face, we got Vion, we got your boy Fred, and today we're gonna do a little talking about violence in video games. Do video games make you violent, or is the fact that you can't play a video game making you violent? Just saying. You really think about it. Think about it. Think about it. Just put it out there. If you get cut off from your games, is that what's making you want to beat people's ass, or no, seriously though, seriously though.
Yes.
Like this is an eternal conflict. People talking about video games make children violent. Video games make people violent. Is you feel that's the case, guys? Is that real? No.
No.
Okay,
That's dumb. That's someone
okay,
looking for a scapegoat.
okay.
Right?
I think that video games definitely have an influence on a lot of younger players. Um, it can no doubt it can influence younger kids if they don't know any better. Because they want to do what's cool, and that would mean like they're playing Grand Theft Auto. They see someone with a machine gun, they're gonna go out and get a machine gun. But if there's there's certain things the way your character might interact with another character, you know what I mean, that they may pick up, but overall I think it's more of just like your a parent's job to just mold their kid into what they want them to be, like the influences that they want to have. I think games have an influence on young kids, but it's outweighed by your parental influence. So at the end of the day, the parents got the have to do the right thing in raising you.
So basically, it's. I'm trying to say this without like being mean as hell. Other than I'm gonna have to say,
Do it.
parents, beat your children. I'm just gonna look at you,
You don't have to beat
America. We're gonna have this conversation.
you don't have to beat your children, but
Just give him a nice whooping.
time out.
America, America, you gotta feel me on this one.
Time out.
Discipline your children. You don't have to beat them. You have to discipline your children. You need to start telling them right from wrong. Don't just sit them in front of a video game or in front of TV and expect them to do the parenting job for you.
Yeah,
That's where you're messing up. Stop it.
parents need to do the research on what they're buying their kids.
Hmm.
Because if that game is really mature and that parents is coming in just, oh, this game looks great. My child would very much enjoy this. You're being stupid. If there's an M on the back of that box and your kid is 5 years old, you are making a mistake. You are stupid.
Mom, you
Do your
better get
research.
information.
If you get your 5-year-old kid Grand Theft Auto, do your research. Do you know what's in that game?
There's nothing in the game. What are you talking about?
That game is very appropriate for all ages.
So
No, I was at GameStop and somebody actually got on somebody about that. Like a mother was sitting there, she's like, "Oh, my son got to Grand Theft Auto," but it's like, "Ma'am, this is rated M." She's like, "Can I see that? Sex, nudity. This is an M-rated game." No, no, no. But mom, everybody else is playing it. I don't care what everybody else is doing.
That's
No.
right. That's right.
She's like, "But mom, all the other kids will laugh at me." Well, you want me to get you a clown suit? We could help them out.
You gotta ask yourself, like, the ESRB rating, it's there for a reason. But do
Yeah.
parents, because my history in retail, and when you go to GameStop, you're always required to ask someone if they're of a certain age, they have to have an adult or guardian with them to purchase the game. And I will tell you, all the times the parents are like, "Yeah, that's okay, yeah, fine, whatever," and they don't really pay attention to it. So you still have to read it off, and they just rush you through it. Do you think they're properly educated on that as far as the violence in video games? Because it feels like a lot of video games are violent, but a lot of times when something happens in media, we know all too well how they try to relate it to video games. So
Parents definitely aren't educated on that. I mean, if you don't care about games, then you're not going to care about the rating of a game. And there's no easy way for the ESRB ratings board to get that information out to parents that just don't follow anything related to games. And I'd be willing to bet, and I don't know, but I would be willing to bet that that like a lot of times when kids are getting access to these games these days, it's probably not even at GameStop. Like it probably happens at GameStop,
Mm-hmm.
but there's so many ways to get games these days, like especially with like buying them online. And it's like,
Hmm.
Yeah.
everybody and their mama has a debit card and or access to their parents' debit card,
Mm-hmm.
or their friends have these games, and so they go to their friend's house and play them, and whatever the case may be. And so it's very hard to keep those games out of the kids' hands, and it's probably tough trying to educate parents that could care less about games. They just want to get the kids off the back, so they buy them a game to keep them quiet.
I, if it's parents like us, though, I think our generation of kids are like they're fine. They're educated. They play games. They know what a video game is. They know what the ratings are. They're like, no, come on, no, you're not playing this, little Timmy. No, little Timmy, little Timmy, little Timmy. You are not playing Modern Warfare 3. I heard you cuss that dude out the other day. I heard you. I heard you sitting there saying you were gonna go over there and rape his mom. Seriously, little Timmy, you're not playing this. No, no, no. And it's true. Kids on first person shooters, Call of Duty or anything, are some of the most vile, vitriol little pieces of so and so in the world. Sometimes you want to give them discipline. You want to give them discipline because you just want to be like, one good time, because they are like the meanest little things in the world. It's like they hear their parents curse or they hear something on in a movie or television, and they just start stringing all these words together, and all you can do is just go
Mute.
Yep.
yes,
Yep.
yes.
Exactly right.
Mute is my friend.
Parental control.
Because usually the Call of Duty, aren't they usually rated like immature?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like in Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops, you'll play with little kids. You could hear the high pitched voices, and
Squeakers.
and they will cuss and say that like the meanest things just because you kill them in a match, and you'll get so crazy amounts of the hate mail. So like Fred said a little before, I do think Von's video games does have an effect, but the factor is the environment they grow up in.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, as far as the parents, if we would have children, would you guys be comfortable? How would you guys feel as if your children playing M-rated games? Like, would you wait for a certain? Would it be case by case basis? Would it be a certain age, or would you
Case
be
by
more
case
lenient?
basis for sure. For me, at least, because I mean, I feel like something like Call of Duty doesn't, have it's not as bad as say Saints Row or or Grand Theft Auto. And like if you want to avoid the online interactions, that's something you could just disable through your console. But playing like the campaign of like a military shooter like Call of Duty, I mean, it teaches them guns, but where are they not going to see guns at? So I think it does just all depends on like the scenario, the situation. Like I think Grand Theft Auto and Saints Row, stuff like that relates to a real life situation, whereas like a military shooter, it doesn't necessarily relate to a real life situation.
So, can we say fantasy violence and would that be considered some kind of fantasy violence versus
Well, like it just like when I say real life situation, I mean like war is real, but I
Right.
mean a kid is not in the military, doesn't have access to like these this military weaponry and stuff like that. So you're not going to be in that scenario. Whereas I can go outside and rob a car and pick up a prostitute and then run her over and take my money back, any day of the week, just like in Grand Theft Auto.
That's a cheat
Perfect
code,
example.
by the way. Perfect example
That's cheat
indeed.
code. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. But it's like this. Face, I'm going to use you an example because you can chime in on this. I think you can handle this. Your child wants to buy, you pick your child up, let's say the Black Ops 2, because solid game. Your kid's over there, and you walk in, you hear your kid cursing up a storm, and talking about running trains on somebody or killing somebody's wife, mother, so and so, significant other. How do you handle that? What is your go-to response for that? How do you feel? Do you feel it's the game's fault, or do you feel like it's something you're neglecting, you failed on, or you personally, where do you feel you're gonna go from that?
My kids ain't gonna be that way. I'm just saying. They say any kind of curse word or anything around me, they about to catch the back of his hand on that rear end. You know what I'm saying? I am not about that. Now, if I did walk in and hear that, I wouldn't be happy. They wouldn't get that console. They would be grounded, and yeah, they wouldn't be playing that game for a while. They wouldn't play online. I can deactivate that. Look, I'm an IT. I can do whatever I want to with a computer. I know how to do it. I can make their lives live in hell. Facebook? What's that? Your computer don't even know what that is anymore. Look, I'm not about that. Like, I can't stand it when other people are talking like that on a game that I'm playing. Right. It's like, I don't understand how parents let their kids do this. I'm not going to let my kid do that. That's not a thing that's going to take place in my home.
Well, I think that's something that parents just don't know about. Like, parents know if their kid is playing an M-rated game, but like how they act online, I think parents just legitimately don't know that, because a lot of times it's just late at night when you're playing, and kids be home alone, or they be in the room while the parents sleep. Or
see, that's the problem. The thing is, now kids have their own laptops. Kids have smartphones, and they can be in bed at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. They can be talking to anybody. Again, that's not something that's going to happen in my house. Bedtime is at
8 o'clock.
After 10 o'clock, you better be in that bed. You will have no electronics in your room. I'm not putting a desktop computer, in my child's room. Why? Because I had a computer in my room when I was young. It was a bad thing. I know I did stupid stuff.
My kids can never
really, really bad thing, and I don't want them to go through that temptation or whatever. I'm like, you know what? Do whatever you want when you get out my house. But when you're in here, it's my place.
So let me ask you. So when they turn 18 and they're there, it's still gonna have the 10 o'clock.
I hope this ends before 18.
Yeah, right. I was just gonna say.
It depends on the kid.
Wow.
If they up into some bad stuff, it's gonna stay that way. Again, if you're living under my roof, you're living under my rules. That's the way it is. You want to do whatever you want to do? Look, get a job. There's apartments down the street. Have fun.
This man ain't even had kids yet. He already kicking his kids out.
No, look. I will. If they're trying hard and they cannot pay for a place, I understand that. I get that. They can pay rent to me. Then that's okay. I can be okay with that. But don't go bringing a girl in here being drunk or something at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's not gonna happen.
Grand Theft Auto. That's where they got it from, right there. Grand Theft Auto.
Okay, so going back to how violence affects kids.
Yes.
Now, so most of the cases that you see where people say, "Oh, the video games, they're affecting their minds. They're going around killing people," it's BS anyway. And those people, those rare few, they have some sort of mental issue going on, and their parents should know from the beginning. Your kid probably shouldn't be playing something with that kind of, giving that kind of influence to them while they're mentally handicapped. That's not a smart thing. And that, again, falls on the shoulder of the parents. Like, their kids do have a responsibility to not be dumb, but when there's something mentally going wrong, that's on you.
Yeah, and if something like if you ever have that situation, like you run a situation where some kid does something crazy and they're like, oh, they blame video games. I bet you, it's usually 9 times out of 10 probably a kid that just doesn't have like any friends like that or whatever. And it's kind of up to parents to encourage, their children to make friends, to go outside, to it's totally fine. Like, I would never be that person that says, oh, you can't play your game, you can't play a game for long periods of times or whatever. But at the same time, you got to know to encourage them to do other things in addition to playing games, because I think that's part of it. I think gaming in general brings on a lot of stress, like, especially if you're playing like online stuff, like like a lot of what we're talking about. It brings on a lot of stress, and that could definitely have a an effect on your mental capacity, whether you're a kid or an older adult.
By encourage, he means get your behind outside and play. You're bothering me. No, video games have become a scapegoat. Video games have become a scapegoat for people not wanting to own up to their behavior. They don't want to own up to their mental issues, their convictions, their everything. They're like, well, because I played all these video games, I played all these shooters and everything. This is what taught me how to be this way. Video games are at fault. No, no, it's you. You have issues. You can't seem to associate the simple fact that you don't like the way the things work, you don't like the way the world's going or whatever. So you're gonna go on a rampage, and then you're gonna sit there, and somebody's gonna try to say, "Oh, he played Call of Duty, he played Grand Theft Auto. This is what causes the violent behavior in our children. We need to seriously regulate it." And we've done studies. We have done studies, ladies and gentlemen. We have research, and we still have continuing research. We have continuing studies that nobody can conclude that video games are making you violent. It's just.
So would you all be willing to say it's somewhere around say the general populace who don't play video games, or in some cases do play video games, they're not fully educated on how video games work or the system behind that? Because it feels like you don't hear that coming from gamers. You hear that from people who are not gamers, people who are not in this particular lifestyle or hobby. Do you think it'll be beneficial for us to educate them, or is there any way to educate them to kind of dissolve that violence?
I mean, you can always educate people, but it's like a endless back and forth. If every person you educate is going to be another person that's ignorant to the facts. That's just how the world is always going to be. So it's always good to educate people, though.
It's not only that. There is education out there. Like there are so many outlets they can go to look at this stuff. Mm-hmm. The thing is, every media outlet has its own agenda, and if bashing video games fits that agenda, that's exactly what they're going to do. Whether the facts or not, we all know most media's not entirely factual.
Yeah.
Think of all the movies we've seen, the horror movies and the action movies,
mm-hmm.
everything that glorifies violence. Nobody's blaming movies for any of this, and those are easier. I feel easier for kids to get to than a video game. They're a lot cheaper and everything. So anybody who's like have a strong love of horror movies or anything, you don't see anybody acting out. You don't see anybody like Fred going running around with some knives on his hand, slashing people up or anything.
Fred, you're ruining it.
Do you want to have something you want to tell us, Fred? No, it's
nothing. I have nothing to say.
it's basically as gamers, I feel like people are using our medium as a scapegoat. Where I'm also big into movies, and as somebody who sits on both sides, am I the only person who can say I feel like there's not a lot of equality here? Movies are just as violent, if not more so, than some of these video games. So how dare you sit there and say it's video games' fault because it's interactive? It's movies' fault because they're showing it how it's done and glorifying it.
Yeah, I think the overall, I think the argument is just I don't even know the word. I guess it's just misplaced, sort of. Like I said, I feel like games can heavily influence a kid, but it's not. That's not that's not the big picture. That's not the bigger problem. The bigger problem is, the parents teaching, being able to teach their kids the right and wrong and all that stuff. So, you could get as much influence from anything, but, if you're taught the right thing, then that's what you're gonna, that's what you would think you would follow.
Parents, just please educate yourselves on what your kids are doing, because this isn't some, 30-year-old walking around killing people because of a video game. This is a lot of kids that learn this stuff. So, research! Fill yourself with the facts! Like, follow, subscribe while you're at it! And join us again for another video.
Yay! Yay!